I'm deeply honored to welcome you, Ambassador Tut Riek Jikany, and sincerely thank you for accepting a request for this important interview as usual, and at a time where South Sudan continues to face conflict and uncertainty now. I value your willingness to share your perspective and insight on the current situation and the path forward to peace and stability in South Sudan. So, welcome to Africa Decode.
Thank you, Babur. It's a pleasure to always come on your show, and I also greet your audience and everybody that will be watching this. We're trying to stay as engaged as we can through the current affairs in our country.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you the first question. When General Johnson Olony explicitly ordered his troops to spare no life and including elderly people, and the government dismissed it as a slip of the tongue, just to boost morale. And when you look at this, I would like to ask at what point does the international community transition from calling this inflammatory rhetoric to documenting it as a state-sanctioned policy of genocide, like the same one that happened uh, through Martin Lumoro, where he labeled some countries as hostiles?
It was unfortunate to witness such high-ranking individual from the SSPDF, such as Johnson Olony. He echoed a very disturbing pattern and practice that has been going on in South Sudan for many years. And the international community is aware. And I think he's one of those generals that have not been sanctioned.
Yeah.
But I think with the atrocities that already happened in Jonglei and influence of refugees.
Yeah.
So he pretty much narrated a plan, and a plan that was implemented and has been implemented, and definitely escalated to the point where the humanitarian assistance was looted, and also some of the facilities were air bombardment, such as medical facilities for MSF. So these are not just threats or just mere words. These are action plans. And what needs to be done next is, as many South Sudanese are wondering, what is next for the international community. And I believe that certain strict and policies will follow through, as you see during the United Nations Security Council meeting, where they spoke of policies that will be altered due to the decision made by high-ranking military personnel, allowing their troops to loot assistance meant for citizens that are displaced by conflict that they instigated by themselves. So these are preventable uh, things that could happen. I mean, it can be prevented.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate, and definitely genocide is already committed. I believe the international community sees that anytime there's a conflict in South Sudan, there is going to be atrocities committed, which does recall the past history, dark history that we have. And Johnson Olony is one of those military generals that do speak on certain things, and they do implement it, and he has. And I believe that sanctions are following after all of this.
Hmm. Yeah, and what is the situation currently in the ground? I mean, in Jonglei states, there have been displacement, and how are the people coping with the current atrocities?
Yeah, it's traumatizing, and it's so sad that citizens are displaced. Even if they wanted to stay out of the conflict, they're still caught in the middle of it. I know that many of them from certain counties have gone on to Duke to seek refuge, and also other counties in the area. So as devastating, we've seen young girls that are living in forests to just
Yeah.
hide. You see small children carrying their belongings, so they do not have homes. Their homes has been burned, like Yai has been burned to ground and other places. So it's very unfortunate that that citizens are continuing to suffer, and this has been a place where the international community are looking for an alternative
Mm,
because many of the peace agreement has been violated many times. And when the SSPDF personnel say that they're going on a mission operation, is not a mission operation.
mm,
And the unfortunate part of this is that while the civilians are fleeing and they're some of them have sent pictures and have videos describing the scenes, the SSPDF soldiers are mocking them. We see those of Garang Ateng and even Johnson Olony himself,
yeah.
Paul Nung, they're all mocking these civilians and they're putting that on social media, such as yeah, we're in Akobo, we're in this county. All of these, that's just mocking the situation and they're not serious about it.
Mhm.
Mm.
So currently, we're talking about the peace in South Sudan. Um, you know, Dr. Machar has been on trial for so long now, and it seems like it's an endless trial. So, what do you think of that? Is it just another way of putting Dr. Machar under house arrest for extensively long time that doesn't see an end?
Yeah, I believe the government has a plan and it has a roadmap to continue to intimidate the citizens and oppositions. They do have a strategy where they want to silence all critics, and the thing that they don't realize is that you cannot govern a country like South Sudan through force intimidation, because all 64 tribes have experienced war. They know what war is. So when it comes to Dr. Machar's situation, it's a way to weed out the IO.
Mm,
As of now, IO is split, and it's on a verge of fighting in different locations. But the government wants to silence the IO before releasing Dr. Machar because that's his power. If his power can be taken away, then they have no opposition, like a real opposition that can challenge the upcoming election if it's going to be able to hold. So Dr. Machar case is a strategy, but the main thing is that he is a peace guarantee signature, and he's a partner to the peace agreement that was the roadmap for a viable way for South Sudan to be able to sustain itself and then move forward towards a peaceful coexistent state. But at the moment, um, it is a non-existent, and the government itself is not functioning like a government because it lacks national institutions. So when you see the court right now with Dr. Machar, there's no independent judiciary. It is a watered down court hearing because the judges themselves are unable to hold off independently. And recently, the forensic expert couldn't even hack into the computer, and that shows you the competency of the court. It is not to the standard to try a vice president at a caliber of a Dr. Machar. So this is something that the international community pushing Kiir to release Riek. Go back to the peace table, call out the other signatories, the non-signatories, bring them in. It's the only way for South Sudan to move forward. But at this moment, it is a strategy that they're trying to implement to weed out the IO.
mhm. So, and can we honestly say that a peace agreement still exists when all these of things happen, or are we simply watching the final, this violence consolidation of a one-party state?
Yeah, I believe there's only one person that does not want the peace agreement to hold, and that is
Mhm.
Salva Kiir. I believe that the non-signatories, also Dr. Machar, and the stakeholders, AU, IGAD, the Troika, and the United States, they want this peace agreement to work, but Kiir does not want it to work, and he's the one that is causing the roadblocks because the most of the resources are in his hands. So I believe everybody else want peace, even the South Sudanese citizens themselves, they want peace. But with President Salva refusing and wanting to impose himself on the people rather than allowing the people to participate and let this peace agreement flourish to where that we can be able to elect our officials, just like you and me, we can be able to elect our leaders in our counties, at the state level, even the national level. And I believe Keir feared this because he feared that somebody else would outdo him, somebody would do better. And right now, the peace agreement, I believe, is still in its place. We can continue to go back to it, but it started with Salva Kiir accepting it.
Mm. So, let's talk about these signatory bodies. Like, I mean, the people who were we were there, we witnesses the agreement, the signing of the peace agreement. Let's say the African Union, the IGAD, and others institutions. So, in the top of it is the African Union. So what do you say about the African Union? Because it seems like the African Union is currently is not in a position that it will force the president Salva Kiir to implement the peace agreement while it is being broken on the ice. So what measurements do you think the African Union should and the IGAD should take to force the peace agreement to be viable in the country?
I believe African Union is at its last leg, and I'm hoping it's going to collapse soon because African Union has failed the people, has not provided services. It's a sanctuary for dictators. They were actually the first to congratulate Yoweri Museveni for rigging the election,
Mm,
and which the many stakeholders, even the national community, has labeled the election in Uganda as a military operation, not an election. So at this moment, AU has failed. IGAD has failed. These are people that are working with the dictators to continue to press the people. And I believe that the only way that East Africa region or even the Africa continent it will change is that AU has to be changed.
mm,
It has to be able to be overhauled because the current leaders right now they're taking turns, and it's so sad that even the Burundi president was elected today to be the chairperson.
yeah.
Is upcoming. The same thing with Angola president, who arrested us last year for coming into the country. And if you see that the African Union is a failed organization, I don't think it will be able to do anything, at least unless it's overhauled. That
Mm,
we have young people, new people that do love the people, want the continent to move forward. That's the only way it could be viable. But when it comes to the case of South Sudan, I believe even African Union have distanced themselves from SELFA. The same thing with IGAD because he's also failing to pay fees, to
mm,
pay the annual fees to AU and IGAD, and most of the embassies they're closed down. So his relationship also with AU is falling apart, and we believe that's good. We want that to happen because these are the institutions that have been keeping him alive throughout his leadership.
mm. So I want to take you back to the recent conflict that happened in Jonglei State. With the UN forces to suspend their food aid in Upper Nile 6 months after repeated both convoy attacks and hospital bombardment by the government drones, is the state intentionally using humanitarian strangulation as a military strategy to force displacement of the communities it perceived as hostile?
Yeah, on this side, what we see with the international community, it's conducting its operation in conflict zone like South Sudan and many other countries that is operating in, such as the World Food Program. The unfortunate part that is happening now, they're becoming a victim to the conflict. I don't think the South Sudan government has any strategy to be able to take advantage of the international community or the assistant, the humanitarian assistant. But I believe that what's happening is the South Sudan government is unable to feed its soldiers. So they resort to looting. And we've seen soldiers even in Nassau County right now, they're starving. Some have come out, they don't even have shoes. They're having basic things. So when you look at this, I don't think the government has any strategy whatsoever, but it's where it comes from, a heartless government that does not care about the people, that is willing to loot the system that's meant for the people in those areas. And I believe that right now the international community like World Food Program are beginning to suspend their operation because it's becoming more dangerous and dangerous for them to operate in those conflict areas because they do have staffs. They protect them. They know these staffs have families that they want to come back to. But unfortunately, these staffs have been also victim to the conflict. Many have been abducted. Some have lost their lives along the way. So at the moment, the operation is becoming very, very dangerous for the international community to continue to provide resources and assistance to those that are in need. What we want to do is we want to continue to push the government of South Sudan to discipline their soldiers, not to loot these humanitarian assistance. But at the moment, I don't think there's mechanism that can be forced to be able to push that government to yield to the humanitarian assistance. And this is a pattern. It happened in Jonglei, it happened in Upper Nile, and continually the MSF is trying its best to operate. But recently, when the government went back to capture some of the areas that were captured by the SPLA-IO, there were certain things that trying to divert to the internet to some of the organization such as MSF. They saying that those PWs or prisoners of war, they were unalive in their compound. And the MSS say we're not operating in that area. So they're even trying to shift blame to these organizations that are genuinely working to help the South Sudanese people. So I do not see them using this as a way to strangle or anything like that, strangle the citizens or anything, use them as a shield. I just think that they have no way of feeding their soldiers.
Mm. Okay, now let's talk about the election because this is 2026 and I think we have like 10 months ahead. The government is pushing for a December 2026 election despite there's no census and there's no permanent constitutions and dozens of citizens are currently displaced or starving. And do you think that this election is intended to be a democratic milestone, or is it being used as a deadline to military clear opposition held territories?
Yeah, I believe it is being used as a strategy and a deadline to clear out all the oppositions. And we know that it's not going to happen. One, not enough funds to be able to organize an election, and such an election cannot be organized in this short frame time. And I believe they had a plan, but many of the plans that the government has had have fired back at them and also fired back at the citizens, and the citizens end up suffering. And I believe right now we don't even have a candidate beside President Salva Kiir himself.
Yeah.
So it's already rigged. It's a false narrative to ignore the reality, because the reality on the ground right now is that many of the states are hostile. They continue to believe in themselves. As many youth have taken arms, they have no trust of the government. They have no hope. So the only hope now is for them to form a community alliance to protect themselves from any threat that could happen. So I don't think the international community will actually recognize the election, because even the observers, because you need observers from the international community, you need those from regional, and at the moment right now, many citizens are outside the country, and so this will not work. It will, if anything, it will force Salva to act quickly in a state of capturing the country, and then lead by force and intimidation.
Hmm. So if like the last question I would like to ask is that currently it seems like the country is teetering into chaos as a whole, and there is a lot of resentment from the community, from the people itself themselves. So do you think there would be a possible revolution to host this government, the current government of Salva Kiir, in the near future?
Yeah, I believe if the citizens are able to have a common goal and a common national agenda, I believe they can be able to actually have more power to host out this regime. But at the moment, many of them are fighting their own mini battles, and also there are those that fear that if another community come up, they might hurt them or they might marginalize them. So there's a fear of each other, the insecurity between tribes and communities that have once lived together. So I believe that if we have a national agenda, a national identity, national institutions, all of these things, if the citizens were able to focus on those, I believe this government will not survive even a couple months. But with taking arms, it's very difficult, because when you take arms, then you're going to be able to use force to install yourself into the leadership later on. So those are things that are really complicating. I think that's also what pushing the international community to be able to be reluctant, because there's no alternatives at the moment to be able to fill that vacuum if these leaders were able to be taken out. So it is a tough battle for South Sudanese, because Salva been in presidency for over 20 years, and people has been suppressed. So now to take them out of that, need a strong strategy, a strong roadmap to be able to bring all these other communities along with you, whoever desire to lead the country next.
Yeah. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. And I would love to give you the chance to um say whatever you want to say to the people of South Sudan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Babur and Africa Decode for hosting me. It's a pleasure. Lastly, I am actually this week I've been very happy with Gen Z, because Gen Z now are coming up, and what I see now, they're more engaged, they're more unified, and what I can tell the Gen Z is continue to build each other on national identity, national institutions, and then you'll be the next leaders in line. I believe this is the generation that will break the cycle of violence, cycle of hatred and tribalism, and be able to focus on national identity. And I love that. We need to encourage our young people to be engaged more of the country affairs. And even now, I don't think the leaders understand that the citizens are more educated than before, because this is a very young age group, which is the most populated right now, and they have been educated in other parts of countries. So you can see, even when a press statement is released, they're watching everything and they're able to voice their concerns. So I would say continue to be engaged. South Sudanese are good people. They just need leadership, and I believe that Gen Z will be able to overcome many challenges that we have.
Okay, thank you so much, Ambassador Tut Riek Jikany.